quite 2 months into my job, but I'm absolutely delighted to be here. And what I'd like to share with you is, so far, what I found and how it will change. I want to speak for a few minutes about change, and I think I'm qualified because just about 2 months ago, actually on April 13th, I went to a party for my dad, who's 85. He was being honored at a conference. On Friday night, on Saturday, I moved to New York City, and on Monday morning, I started my new job. And that was after living in Minneapolis for 32 years, where I had moved to get my job at General Mills about 3 weeks after I graduated from grad school at Wisconsin. So I kind of went straight through, and I was a corporate gal for 32 years, and I dove out and I closed a door by retiring from General Mills, and a number of my friends from General Mills are here at this conference. And then I created the possibility to open one. So here's my story. On April 15th, I discovered, Gayle, you're actually not in Minneapolis anymore. A lot of change. New York City, I love New York City. It's really great. But you know, in order to get to work in the morning at General Mills, what I would do is I would leave my garage in my company car. I would drive to the executive garage. I would get out. You actually didn't have to go outside for this lifestyle. New York City, you have to walk outside to get somewhere. You got to stick your hand out to get a car. And I discovered that, you know, if you get a grocery cart full of stuff at maybe somewhere like TJ Maxx or Home Goods, they don't deliver it back to your house. So you have to actually figure out how to work the logistics of that. And I walked to work, and for the first time in my life, I actually wore flip-flops to work last Friday night because, or last Friday and back, because it was pouring down rain, and that was just kind of what I figured out the footwear was going to be. So a lot of change in my life right now, and I have been so energized to be here, and I'm so excited about New York City, about the ARF, and about what we're going to be able to do. But I also want to tell you about the reaction of my friends and family when I told them what I was doing. So they said, Gayle, the ARF? Seriously, have you thought about changing the name? Quite seriously, what I want to tell you what I found when I came is I found 35 employees. I found 22 board members, 32 industry leaders, and I was able to attend 8 industry events that I've been able to connect with on my listening tour, because I decided I would use the skills that I had at General Mills, which is to go out and listen first, then translate that into what we would do with it, and then translate it into action. And what I found at the ARF, at the Advertising Research Foundation, is something different than I think what the perceptions may be. I found that it's actually a team of 35 people. It's not a place. I found that the average age of our group is 38. I found that our average tenure is actually 2 years and 11 months. Our average experience is 20 years, but there's a big range there, from 2 years to 42 years. And our families are actually from 20 countries. And so what I found when I came to the ARF, and I was on the board for 6 years, and I was on the executive committee, but I really had never faced the entire group of people at the ARF. And so what I found when I came was a group of people that are bright-eyed, energetic, multicultural, multi-generational, and ready to go. And as you may have noticed, we're wearing green. And that was the group's idea for how we would be identified. And I think, you know, we had previously kind of metal name tags. We were very professional and venerable, and I think sometimes a little bit austere and serious about ourselves. And so the team had the idea of wearing lime green. Now, we're researchers, so we had to have a debate about what lime actually is, right? Is it forest, not chartreuse, not neon, and you'll see a variety of people. And for those of you, with Leslie Wood is actually wearing green as, I think, an empathetic thing. But for those of you that accidentally wore green today, if someone asks, you know, how to sign up for the internet, just find one of the ARF employees. But what I'd like to do right now is ask the ARF folks to stand, because I want you to see the team that works at the Advertising Research Foundation, because we actually work for you. And I want you to experience us the way that I have in the last 2 months. I've never met a group of people that are more talented and that accomplish more with the limited resources that they have. So here's an idea, and it's a fresh and simple view, and this is all lowercase because I'm not here to give you the answers. I'm here to give you some ideas. But I like to think about the ARF as not just advertising research foundation, because it isn't always just about advertising. It maybe isn't even just about research, maybe marketing. And foundation is a great foundation of support, and hats off to Bob Baracci and his team for creating an amazing foundation and the financial stability that we can now build on. We could never do what we're about to do if it wasn't for Bob and the work that he did, and I really offer tribute to him. But what I like to see us as the Advertising Research Foundation is actually anticipating and acting. I want us to be actually doing the work and getting out and applying it to your business issues. We want to do relevant research, and we want it to be original and curated, and we want to do it for you. Those of you that are member companies in the room, thank you so very much. Those of you that aren't members, I want to earn the right to hear what your business questions are and answer them and get them to you in decision timing. So we're going to have a conversation. We're not going to be just presenting to you and talking to you. All right, so here we are at the conference, Measuring the Unmeasured. I was invited to completely change the conference about a week into my tenure. So some things have changed as much as we can. What I wanted it to be is I wanted it to be interactive. I wanted us to be seen as being the professionals and ready to help that we are and be able to consult your business issues. But here's what my friends and family and those of us in the research community said. They said, AM 8.0. Like, seriously, Gayle, have you thought about changing the name? And I don't necessarily think of myself as being here for AM 20.0. But I don't really think that it's about changing the name. I think it's about changing the game. So what I am aiming to accomplish and what our team is aiming to accomplish for you is to actually help change the way you think, how you think about measurement, how you think about research, and importantly, and this is why we're going to have more discussion and more tabletop conversation and more interaction, how you think about leadership and how you think about your role. I want you to think about how you're going to help grow your companies. I want you to think about how you're going to choose your partners and collaborate because they're in this room. And I want you to think about practicing your experiential leadership, your own leadership, as you go through the conference. So we've changed the names of some of our activities. We changed from concurrent sessions to experiential learning. And we have a concierge service. So if you're interested in mobile, you can get the guide for what sessions to see for mobile and for big data and for cross-platform. And we're going to talk about the researcher of the future at our lunch tabletops. Now, Colleen mentioned that there are an awful lot of conferences happening, and there's kind of the must-have slide for 2013, right? We've all seen it. There's probably a conference going on right now, and there's a slide up on a big screen somewhere. And it says, change is upon us. The consumer is in control. That's kind of where it all starts, right? And big data is big inundation and also big opportunity. People are trying to wrestle that. Growth is slow domestically and complicated abroad. In fact, one of the industry events that I attended, the government was speaking about trends, and they said, well, what had they overestimated in the last 5 to 10 years? And it was US growth. So that's really an issue for us with our companies. But we also see so much complexity in the area of advertising with global, mobile, social, and local advertising adding new touch points. Mobile being, I think, the biggest game changer globally, and we really have to figure out how to wrap our heads around that and its added complexity. That said, I think ROI is still the resource allocation coin of the realm. We're going to have to figure out if that's how we're going to keep going or if we're going to need to bolt on other metrics. So I think that our decision table awaits. We have an opportunity because we actually understand the consumer better than anybody else. Head, heart, and feet. And the heart part is really important because I think the voice of authenticity and our ability to tell stories and translate the data into simple insights is a unique skill that we have. I would argue that we're probably the only ones in our companies that really like data. Our skills to translate data into insights, I believe, have really been honed over the last 10 years, and even our communication skills have improved, and we aim to improve them even further through these experiences as we go forward. Now, if anybody's reading the build-up to Cannes, you'll notice that data is being regarded as sexy. And people that work with data and that understand data and translate it into insights are being regarded as sexy. So I say, if data is sexy, researchers, come on down. But here's a reality check, and I want you to think about this as you go into these concurrent sessions and as we go in to try to change the game, and change our presence at the decision table and be where we need to be with our CEOs. Our old platforms are shaky. And I know because of where I sat for so many years at General Mills that they're so expensive to maintain that they take up a big chunk of our dollars. And researchers find themselves with less time and money to invest in growth and new metrics and new platforms than what we would really like to be able to do. I think we're up at night worrying about whether we should be bolting on or whether we should be creating new metrics. Is staying with the metrics that we have today, is that actually creating something that is an old model and it's going to actually keep us from growth? Or are those monolithic platforms the things that we need to keep growing and building? And who's minding the creative? And that's a question that we're going to be answering at the ARF, because the metrics are only as good as the quality of the copy that goes into them. So that's something that we really need to attenuate ourselves to. And this topic of collaboration, look, I think it can get highly controversial, because it's like collaborating with competitors. Are they my competitors or my collaborators? But I think if we can push forward and really try to build collaborative partnerships with companies that even previously have been thought of as competitors, we'll be able to make a big difference. And I believe this public airing of our problems in terms of data quality and in terms of, is DIY really research, or is any of our research any good? I think that's really impacting our credibility. So enter audience measurement 8.0. I think you can bring your CEO's biggest growth challenges to the table. I read the 40 papers that are going to be presented, and I have to tell you that as I read the papers, I came back and I told the team that, you know what, they're the answers to questions that my CEO and my COO were asking when I was at General Mills. And they were the kind of questions like, what's the impact of what's the long-term impact of advertising? Those are the kind of questions where you're like, okay, that's a really good question, and I don't really know if I know how to answer it. A lot of things are going to be presented in the next couple days that are going to help you answer the tough questions. We're closing the simplicity gap, so you can attend this conference simply by jumping on a custom concierge track and finding your guide for the topics that you have. And we're going to close the leadership gap. So I want you to challenge us with the toughest problems. I want you to come back to rethink, because this is the beginning of a journey. I'm 8 weeks into this position, and I really want to help change the way the industry advances. I want to help all of you advance as leaders. I want to build up young pros and create the next generation of change agents and build the skills and the leadership opportunities to make a difference. And at the ARF, we want to help you be more successful in your companies and for your companies to be more successful. So here's the invitation. We're going to go from a conference to a conversation. We're going to go from metrics to meaning. We're going to go from presentations to provocation. And the team went to Minnesota to we had 108 people gathered, actually, at the Art Institute, and we had Jan Fulgoni speaking, and we had HCD there, and we spoke about neuro. And it was a really wonderful event. And one of my colleagues that was there came up to me and said, Gayle, somebody said to ask you about Minnesota Kind. And so for those of you that aren't from Minnesota, haven't heard it, actually Minnesota Kind, the term is Minnesota Nice, and it's kind of nice on the outside, but you don't really always say what you exactly think. And so I would offer that for this conversation, for the next 2 days, we get under functional cover and we go from Minnesota Kind to kind of more New York. So this is day one. The answers and possibilities for growth are in this room. Take a look at who's in this room. The resources are in this room, starting with the ARF and the team that works for me. The ARF is here to help. We have all kinds of platforms and fun experiential events. And I want us to tell stories, and I want us to get to the point where we're able to tell stories about successes and failures, because we can advance more quickly if we talk about things we tried that didn't work, not just things that we tried that did work. So the table awaits, and let's get started.